Dad Tom this afternoon, checking in on markets. In quite an hour we got to end the trading week, folks. Quite a day in the markets. S&P's right now up 32 points, trading at 42.26. We get the NASDAQ up 129 points. Right now, 13,727. The S&P's making highs. We get the Dow making highs practically as we speak, 34,676, within about 10 points of those all-time highs. The Russell right now, 28 points in the positive, or 1.2%. Bitcoin, $2,000 in the positive right now, almost at 58,015. We have Elon Musk hosting SNL Saturday night. Dogecoin, been all the talk. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. We got crude oil up 8 pennies right now at 64.79. Gold up $15. Quite a week for gold to the upside, 18.31. Silver's up 4 pennies at 27.52. And we'll jump to notes and bonds. Talk about giving it all back. Notes and bonds. We got the 10-year. This morning we spiked to a high of 133.16. Right now you got the 10-year trading at 132.24. That's correlating to a yield of about 1.58%. This morning on the spike higher, you were as low as about 1.52%. So it recoils almost back to where you were prior to that number. I mean, think about the move that is. Think about the difference in expectations that we had coming into that event in terms of expecting 1 million jobs added. We only get 266,000. We have over 8 million jobs to make up right now from pre-COVID levels of employment. We're only added 266,000 jobs right now. That's 2.5 years. If we had 266,000 jobs to make up the 8 million, I don't imagine that's going to be the case. Things aren't progressing as fast as maybe we thought they might, though. April was not the month. As we come into May, June, and July, expectations are going to be even higher now as things get pushed back and anticipation of those numbers gets pushed back, and it all gets piled into later months if it doesn't come in the months that we're talking about right now. We'll jump over to the VIX this afternoon. All the volatility getting sucked out. I've referenced it on the 3 o'clock update. Maybe we'll see a 16 handle, and there it is, 16.99 on the VIX, continuing to drop as this market continues to rise with the S&Ps. Look at that, catching another little bit of a bid, 42.27, within 5 points of the all-time highs right now that we made just prior to noon Eastern time. All right, what else we got going on? Let's jump into the jobs number to start things off. So 266,000. The expectation was for 1 million. Hourly earnings also surprised, but to upside with a 0.7% jump. A couple numbers I wanted to get into here. Just quickly, unemployment rate edging up to 6.1%. But as mentioned here, participation rate also up as well. So you get a higher participation rate. It's going to cause a higher unemployment rate unless you bring those people to jobs, which did not happen basically this month. Getting into the participation rate in particular, 61.7% in April from 61.5%. And then they also talk about average hourly earnings rising 0.7% in April from a month earlier to $30.17. The jobs report showed the wage data for April suggests that rising demand for labor associated with the recovery from the pandemic may have put upward pressure on the wages, the Labor Department said in a statement. So that comes out at 8:30. Of course, there's the big discussion over whether the stimulus payments are holding back jobs to some degree, I'm sure. The variables and how they all play a role together, that's really where the debate consists. But nonetheless, you're only talking 266,000 jobs. There's no hiding that fact at all. And so the market's going to have some expectations in a big way to make up for that as we go forward in terms of, we were looking for 1 million jobs. We also got a revised downward number for the month of March. So a big miss in a big way. And, not to say it makes sense because we really have a lot of jobs to make up here, but it does make sense in some capacity that we're not quite there yet, folks. There's a lot of people that have been vaccinated in the country, but we're not quite at the level to squash cases to the level to really be getting together in the social capacity that might drive the economy that we're looking for. Might get there in the next couple months. And as I said, expectations ramping up in a big way when you get a miss like that. Okay, what else we got going on in the markets? How about Roku? We'll jump to it. So Roku this morning, we're going to pull up the chart. Why not? Let's check it out right now. This stock, talk about delivering. Roku parent some of the gains, but still up about almost 11.5% today on their numbers. Roku, highest revenue growth rate since IPO, and this stock's been on fire recently anyway. They were up 18.6% pre-market. Highest quarterly revenue growth rate since going public with a 79% gain. to $574 million in the quarter. Some of these public companies, especially some of the growth companies that we're talking about here over the last year and a half, the growth numbers that they're putting up with the number of just raw, pure value that they are putting up and growing, just remarkable. Roku, several strategic moves in the advertising space. Now, disclosure, I have some Roku. I got about 6 Rokus in my house. On top of it, the advertising avenue of things, when you consider how they are the portal in my home and many homes now, they're the portal basically to streaming. And when you're the portal to streaming and you're giving certain preferential treatment to, maybe it's the preferential treatment that you put in terms of which streaming platforms get put on the remote control in the best positions. Of course, that's being sold, right? But then it's just the pure that you're in their atmosphere, you're in their ecosystem. They have their own Roku channel. They're selling ads there. When you have that type of control over streaming, there's a lot of ways this company can make money in the future. Now, with that said, talk about a pullback. From 486, we come into the earnings at, where am I, 272? 272 was the low. Yes, 272 was the low. You want to see a weekly bar that's going to be crazy? The weekly bar of this chart, we're talking about a high of 346 and a low of 272, and we might finish right in the middle of that bar right now for Roku at 316, excuse me. And where do we pull back? We pull back exactly a 50% retracement coming into that earnings number. That retracement, 271.28 on Roku. We'll put it back again. I'm going to do a 5-year daily. We're just going to zoom in from the COVID lows on Roku. This stock, I mean, how does this thing accelerate lower? Folks, if you didn't learn anything, if you learned one thing in the market sell-off during COVID, there were some amazing stocks that sold off for no reason other than people had to sell. Amazon comes to mind first and foremost, some of the tech stocks, but this is one in particular as well. Streaming platforms, as people, schools shutting down, work from home, etc., spending more time from home. Didn't have to be a genius to figure out. In February, this thing was at almost 150. They come out with earnings. The slide begins. We make it all the way down on March 17th to $62, and then we trade to 486. 50% retracement right to almost the dollar of 271, and just like that, Roku delivers. Now, we're talking about at this valuation on Roku, just for some context here, jumping over to the Analyze tab and the fundamentals, we're talking about, come on, I'll pull it up at the break. There we go. A little bit slow. $42 billion company. So they get some valuation to live up to, but that kind of growth, they have a bright future for sure. Speaking of a bright future, folks, this market just don't stop. S&P is trading higher, up 34 points, 0.8%. Give us a call, 877-927-6648. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.